Would you love to create a joy filled Christmas this year with your children? Our Advent guide, Unearthing Wonder, includes beautiful devotional readings paired with incredible animal stories from the book All Creation Waits to nurture a very heartfelt, warm, and cozy Christmas season. Each day includes this amazing animal story and a little animal ornament that your kids can color while you're reading. And then there is a devotional that's geared towards nurturing connection and helping build a strong and solid family culture. You can grab Unearthing Wonder Advent Guide at the link in our show notes or at thepeacefulpress.com. This is Jennifer Pepito with the Restoration Home podcast. This is the show where we talk about the peaceful path to connected families and restored communities. Today on the show, I'm excited to be chatting with my daughter, Emelie, about Overwhelm. I was, like many of you, trying to homeschool my big family. I had 7 children, at least 6 of them in my homeschool at a time. And, trying to get through the math lessons in the morning. And we were very literature based in Charlotte Mason. And so I wasn't trying to stress over a bunch of workbooks, but honestly, getting the laundry done. At one point, we lived on a small farm. All of that took so much work. And the problem is, some of the time that I was working meant that I wasn't very present with my kids, and some things got missed that shouldn't have. And so today we want to talk about some practical strategies to help you deal with overwhelm, maybe even create more margin so that you can be present when your kids need you. Thanks for joining today, Emelie.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you lived through this these seasons of overwhelm. And, obviously the younger kids have gotten a little bit of a different experience because there was less house chores. When we moved to Sonora, for instance, there was a little bit less to do and we could do more field trips and more sitting by the river. And thankfully, you and I have had some of those times in adulthood. Like, I treasure the time we went backpacking together and had 24 hours with no distractions to spend together. Every hike we've been on, anytime we get to go to the river and hang out, I just love those times where we're out in nature together and we aren't inundated by all the work, whether it's the work now that I have of, running an online business, or the work that I had then of trying to keep up with the laundry. But yeah, it'd be great to just talk about some of the practical ways that we can help these moms get more peace.
Totally. And it's such an important topic because I think a lot of the changes that moms want to make, they're being sort of forestalled on because they are running an overwhelm or they don't have any space or peace to even start implementing these other changes that they're dreaming of.
Yeah. And, for me, I know that a lot of the overwhelm came from trying to impress other people. I got married and had children pretty young, and I wasn't a super confident person. Like, I hadn't had a lot of life experience in a way. And so, to some degree, unfortunately, I was trying to prove myself by my mothering and homekeeping. And that meant that, I can remember we had these really cool little picnics with our friends when we lived in Pilot Hill. We had this beautiful creek and we would have these super fun sort of field days almost. Like, one time our friends came over and we had gunny sack races. We basically had pillow races, and I would bake a cake and we'd have coffee down there on that bottom patio and you kids would all be playing by the creek. So it was really, really fun once it happened. But I know I spent a lot of energy probably that morning, like telling everybody to clean up the house and, really, not being present beforehand. And I'd love to hear your perspective on some of those times that were busy. I mean, it was worth it. It was for something fun, but I'd just love to hear your perspective. Like, what could have been different?
I don't honestly remember you rushing around much for that. I do remember that gunny sack race event. I remember it being quite fun. I think more some of the busyness hit me later on, I think children can in some ways be a little more immune to it. Like I don't have a lot of memories of some of the things that you just expressed from under 7 or 8. Later on though, I do remember having to sort of, go to the bathroom to read a book without being bothered, or just an inhabited sense of guilt for not working. Like I couldn't rest. I couldn't ever just be like, you know what, I'm gonna just lay on my couch and rest, and or lay on my bed and read a book for an hour and then go to another chore. It was always sort of this sense of I ought to be doing something that really stole any joy of rest. And maybe that was a learned emotion from things that I don't actually remember from my childhood that were there. Um, but I do remember later on just this sense of like there was always something to be done. It was always like we should go do this, we should go do that, we should go do this, we should go do that in terms of, working on the property. I think that as you got busier externally with work and stuff, I think you actually got a lot better. I think you're better now in some ways at carving out rest time, probably because you got more externally busy.
Yeah.
So you almost became the child of yourself, like the busyness. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
your work became the busyness that then caused you to be like, wait, I need a break from this.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, I think I have felt a lot of sadness about what I missed during our Oakdale season. So we lived in on this small farm in this town called Oakdale for almost 7 years, I think. And it was very intense work. And we had some fun, like we've talked about it before on the show. We had, weenie roast. We'd be cleaning up the wood and we'd have a little bonfire. And so we had a pool. We would have swimming time. We had really fun 4th of July. There were some fun parties and things we had there. But I know that when it wasn't a party, I often felt very overwhelmed there. There was just so much work. And so I can remember this, you and your younger sister Eden, you guys just were hard workers at that point. Like I don't feel like I had to say, "Hey, can you do this or that?" But I do feel like there was a lot of me, running through the garden trying to gather all the peaches before they rotted or pick all the pumpkins before they rotted or whatever it was, and yelling at the boys to move leaves or weed something or rake something. And was that feels like a very destructive time in our family, honestly. And even some of the regrets I have now or the things I'm trying to fix, maybe even in the last 10 years were part of just that lack of presence, that not being present, a lot happens with your kids when you're not present. And we have to trust that God who began a good work is faithful to complete it. But if we aren't prioritizing the people in our home over the stuff to do in our home, we're going to have regrets. There's going to be emotions and things that get missed that later on you're going to look back and say, oh, like the laundry is always going to be there. The floors are going to be dirty every day. And I'm not at all advocating for disgusting houses. Like we have, I think a decent standard in our houses. We have always been, tidy. But I'm just saying, like, you don't have to keep arranging the pillows. Put them in a closet for a season if you're spending time every day picking up decorative pillows and putting them back on the couch. Or, have less toys. If you're spending too much time organizing the toys, just have less toys, because some of the things that are taking time away from actually looking our kids in the eyes, like eye contact is really important for attachment, and attachment is really important for mature adult behavior. Some of the things that's stealing from that are actually in the grand scheme of things, in light of heaven, are really stupid things.
Yeah. Oh, they are, and it's hard because they're not unimportant in and of themselves. Like we've talked a lot about having a clean home and the peace that can bring to a small child. I think the big thing is you kind of touched on when you said that you had felt um, a lot of insecurity as a young mom, and were trying to compensate, or there was an internal striving that you were going through. And I've been noticing this. So I am managing a couple Airbnbs right now. I'm doing the podcast, doing a little bit of work for you, and then I work full time, and I'm studying for the bar. So I have a lot on my plate right now. And a lot of the stuff I don't want to do it. Like I'm driving home from work and I have to stop for 15 minutes to go run into one of the Airbnbs and just give it a once over, make sure it's good to go. And I can feel like the tightness in my chest that it almost gives you, it's like a stress reaction that starts to give you tunnel vision, which is when you stop seeing the people around you, stop becoming soft and emotionally available. And I've started slowing down internally. So this isn't even about letting things go. I still have to stop and check the Airbnb, and I still have to put gas in my car and do all this whole list of things. But I've started just taking this deep breath and being like, it's nothing is urgent. It is important. It has to be done now, but it's not urgent. And just sort of inviting Jesus into the moment and physically slowing myself down of like, this is my life. This is what I'm doing right now. This is what I have going on, and moving myself out of this high stress, high fight or flight, high cortisol mode that a lot of us live in, even if it's just, I don't want to say just, but even when it's being um a stay-at-home mom or whatever we have going on, like, and all that's hugely important and a lot. So I'm not at all trying to say just, but my point is that we often run in fight or flight without realizing it. And it's not to say that we take things off of our plate when it's just the normal things that we are called or compelled to do because of the life that we're living, but it's that we start to release whatever tension or lies are coming against you in that, and starting to invite Jesus in, and recognize that the peace that passes understanding and the peace of the kingdom of heaven is is here, not for the moments when you're sitting by the river, but it's for the moments when you have a lot to do. And I think just starting to shift our brain patterns and to take deep breaths as we go through the motions of living is going to broaden our scope and move us out of the tunnel vision that causes us to lose focus on what the people around us need in the moment.
Yeah, that's so good. And I love what you said about just slowing down internally, because I think sometimes it is partly just receiving the peace of God inside yourself that will help create that peace outside despite the chaos, because we can't always control, if our children get the stomach flu and they barf over all the bedding, you're going to feel overwhelmed. There's going to be a lot to do. If you have people coming over for dinner, maybe you didn't have to invite them, but it's already done now, and so you're going to maybe feel a little under pressure. But if we could start having more internal peace, it would create more peace in our homes, just through that, just through maybe deeper breathing or telling yourself, this isn't that important in the long run. It's going to be okay. Talking to your kids and just reassuring them, hey, mom's really busy right now, but you are the most important thing to me. Is there anything you need? Hey, would you be willing to fold some clothes with me so we could have a chance to chat? In whatever way you can, just slowing yourself down, slowing down your reactions, your responses, even your breathing, so that you can be more intentional about your responses.
Yeah, 100%. And I think on the practical side too, a lot of what needs to be done can actually be done quite quickly if we just focus for say 20 minutes. And so one of the things that I love that we did as a family, and I wish we'd done it more regularly even, is we'd have these sort of 20-minute panic cleanups. And it wasn't meant to be a panic, it's kind of a joke, but it was just, we're going to set the timer for 20 minutes and see how much we can get cleaned up, and then we're going to be done cleaning. And a lot of times I'll have dishes in the sink. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do them. But when I do them, it actually just takes me 5 minutes. And so building in habits that aren't even habits, but they're just times of, okay, we're going to just spend an hour working, or we're going to spend 20 minutes weeding, or we're going to spend 20 minutes folding clothes, and having that so that you can kind of mentally get some things off of your plate, which might be some chores that need to be done, get it done quickly, and then you have that another hour to connect. You have time to go for a walk with your kids. You have time to go do something. And so, breaking tasks down into either manageable portions or just setting a time limit of, we're going to work hard for 1 hour and then we're going to be done for the day. And I think either one of those can kind of chip away meaningfully at the burden of tasks we can get overwhelmed by that can keep us from being connected to our kids and our husbands.
Yeah. That's so good. I found this quote by James Clear. He said, when determining the size or complexity of a new habit, ask yourself, what can I stick to even on my worst day? Start there, master the art of showing up, then advance. And so I asked that question in the Restoration Home community, which is open as of this podcast. So I asked that question in the Restoration Home community, and there were some great answers. I just wanted to read them real quick. Amanda said, a midday tidy up based on a list of tasks the kids know are expected of them for the day. So a really basic thing, just having one tidy up a day. She said also resting in between school in the morning and activities in the afternoon. It's small, but it's made the days way more enjoyable for us. So I love that she scheduled in some margins so they weren't just rushing through school and then rushing out the door. And you have the power to do that. Another mom, Jess, said morning chores and read alouds. Those are the basic foundational habits. Another mom said, Katie said, one load of laundry and a quick tidy up at night. Mallory said, Bible and read aloud at breakfast. Mindy said, protein and reading aloud. Ruth said, reading aloud and going outside. I love that these moms are prioritizing reading aloud because when you read aloud to your children, it does actually help regulate your breathing. It does help you slow down a little bit. And not just that, it helps you connect with your kids. uh, Gabby said quiet time and prayer and song at breakfast. So having maybe writing down right now just three activities that are going to be sort of your baseline that these habits we will do even on our worst days. I think then you're going to feel those sort of anchors. And that was such a beautiful part of my 27 years of homeschooling was our morning time. Like it was pretty non-negotiable. There was if we had a co-op, then we didn't do it on those days. But just having that time with my kids, having the connection, getting to hear people's ideas, and it morphed through the years. Sometimes we were singing hymns, sometimes we were reciting poetry, sometimes we were listening to worship music. But just having that time together was such an anchor and beautiful time for me in my life. And I think definitely had an impact on, all of my children as well. What are some of the other kind of like these are, foundational for getting more peace in your days, even nervous system regulation ideas?
Tapping your hands. So I wish we were on camera right now, but this one is huge. And so if you take your four fingers and you take the outside of your palm, so running from your pinky down to your wrist, and you tap on basically the part of your hand that runs between your knuckle and your wrist, and you just tap there kind of rhythmically, and you basically talk out with Jesus while you're tapping there, and you do say 20 taps. It doesn't have to be a count, but you do 20 taps. Oh my gosh. And I start doing it and I immediately start yawning. And yawning is releasing tension from your body. And so when I do it, I just say, Jesus, I'm feeling like today I was listening to a podcast about uh about China and war with China. And I was feeling really anxious, which is unusual for me. And so it just starting the tapping and whatever it is and saying, okay, Jesus, I listened to this podcast today and I'm feeling unease, I'm feeling stress, and I know that you are good. I know that you are in control and I can trust you with the safety of the people I love. I know that you have a good future. I know that you have plans. And so I'll talk out both my stress and the truth of who God is in the midst of my stress. And that's a huge, huge, huge pressure point stress release when you can tap like that. The other thing is walking. And a lot of us just can't detach from our phones, but if you can just leave your phone at home and walk 20 minutes, either with your kids or when your husband gets home by yourself, being outdoors, being moving, and having your phone away from you. And it doesn't even matter if you aren't on your phone while you walk. The presence of the phone actually increases cortisol stress because it increases um, a need for a dopamine reaction. So you're actually having to resist a dopamine desire when you have it. And it's not good. So just leave the phone at home for 20 minutes and go for a walk. Um, like we talked about earlier, having those habits that root your day are really important. If you, and getting enough sleep. this is such a huge one. If you're not getting enough sleep, you will be running on high stress. And so this is, the big thing is that at the end of the day, you're like, well, I just want to read. I just want to do something for me. And it's really easy to lose sleep for the sake of, watching an episode of something or reading a book, which are both totally fine things. But the truth is, there are just phases in our lives where we can't get enough sleep and do that fun thing. And so if you need to go to bed at 7 o'clock when you put your kids down, because they're gonna be waking up across the night, go to bed then. Because the difference, like even I mean the difference for me when I get enough sleep and when I don't, and the stress I feel across the day is huge. And most of us are running on too little sleep. And so those are just a couple, I think, practical ways of fixing stress or bringing a little more margin into your body and into your emotions to handle what life is throwing at you.
Yeah, such a good reminder because sleep, I think I actually read a book called Good and Beautiful God by I think James Bryan Smith, and he said in there, sleep is like the foundational uh it's a foundational spiritual discipline. So I think that is so interesting, but so much is solved just by sleeping. And I think it's a really good reminder that our bodies need rest. And there are seasons where you have a small baby, you might have a sick child where it's not as easy to get the sleep that we need. And I think that makes it even more important that we prioritize it when we can. The other thing I wanted to mention in this podcast before we close out is that we are open in the Restoration Home community right now. We only open 4 times a year and we are open just for a week. It's our Restoration Home Community Retreat on October 10th in Franklin, Tennessee. So we're going to be gearing up for that. We're gathering in this beautiful retreat center and going to be hearing from some of the moms, having workshop time. Emily, I'm so excited to spend time with you there. But we are open in the Restoration Home community just for a week. When you come in, you get a new member packet with some great recommendations of essential habits for creating more peace in your home. You get a weekly lesson with some awesome ideas for activities, crafts, phonics, large motor, fine motor that you can do with your children, connection questions. Right now, we're working on a new virtue every week. And we're also working on a monthly set of habits. So when you join the Restoration Home community, you also get this super helpful monthly habit tracking. In October, we're going to be working on habits of morning time. So that's what I was mentioning earlier, where we gather and spend time, reading together, talking together, uh, doing a prayer time in the morning. And then October also we have a habit of daily walk and taking supplements. So when you're in the Restoration Home community, every week you have reminders, you have a checklist that comes in your month at a glance and your weekly lesson, so that you can work together with the community on better habits. So if you're feeling overwhelmed as a mom, if you're feeling like life is chaotic, you can't get a handle on things, the Restoration Home community would be a great asset for you for creating more peace, especially going into the holiday season. I know the holidays can bring up a lot of emotions for us and feelings of comparison or inadequacy. But when you can get some of these foundational habits in place, you can create more peace and calm so that the time that you get to be with your family can be really precious and really enjoyable instead of being sort of clouded by shame and comparison. So the link is in the profile to join. You can use code restoration for 10% off your membership. And we're only open for about a week to join the Restoration Home community at restorationhomecommunity.com. The one other thing I wanted to mention is, if phone use is one of the problems that you're having, don't feel bad about getting radical about it. One of our friends in the Restoration Home community just posted a picture of her new setup. She has actually bought a house phone. She's been off social media for a year. And then last month, she deleted the internet search off her phone. And this week, she deleted the Amazon app off of her phone. And now she just has like an old iPhone with music on it. And she's just trying to make her main phone as useless as possible. And I love that. Like, if if you are struggling to give your kids eye contact because you're picking up your phone all the time, if you're struggling to be friends with your husband because you're picking up your phone all the time, we'd love to help you with that. There's some great ideas in the Restoration Home community, and just, lock it up, get a home phone, ask your husband to put screen time on there for some of the apps that might be a problem for you, because we have a real world to live in, and it's a beautiful world with leaves that are starting to change colors, and beautiful children who want you to look them in the eyes, and actually a finite amount of time. It's I was so lucky to have not had a cell phone for most of my parenting years and been able to, have our extended morning times, or have times down reading aloud at the creek. And I still have a lot of regrets because fear and comparison still sometimes robbed me of being as present as I would have liked to have been. But I'm so thankful I didn't also have to deal with the distraction of a phone when you guys were small children. And so if you're listening and you want to raise a connected family, but you need some extra help, join us in the Restoration Home community. Use code restoration for 10% off.